where you look and live.
I've actually been trying to find a balance. It's been really tough and hectic, but everyone says once you get a hang of it, becomes better, and I don't know, but I'm hoping to find a balance soon because it's really been hectic. But you've been in the job industry for a long time, so I think you would know better. Sindio?
Huh? What time is it? I need to catch up on Leadership Forum. Do they have a radio here? Never mind. I brought my own.
No way. You can't be serious. Wait, why do you have a radio and you can just catch up with the shows on Hope FM podcasts?
Really? Even Meet of the One?
Yeah. I mean, you can find them on whatever platform, name it. AfriPods, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it.
But I'm not subscribed on any of them.
So no worries. You can just check out the latest episodes on hopemediakenya.org.
You can now listen to select Hope FM programs on your favorite podcast streaming platform or directly on our website, www.hopemediakenya.org. Listen and live.
All right, welcome back. It's time to take a look at the newspapers and what is being reported. This is Hope at Dawn, and my name is Beatrice Uatare. And on the very top page of the Daily Nation, I see here state's plan to recover lost school days. Remember, we had a directive by the President William Ruto stating that schools are to remain closed until further notice, even as we continue to assess the situation and what is happening in the country. And I see here calendar changes. The government will extend second term and third term due to the indefinite postponement of the reopening of schools because of the ongoing floods that have caused massive destruction and left more than 200 people dead. National examinations, which are scheduled to start in November, will however not be affected by the reorganization of the school calendar. Education CS Ezekiel Mashogu said yesterday. This is a story on page 4 of the Daily Nation. And we get to understand that now we're going to have to find a way in which we can extend the time that has been allocated, and especially for the second term and also third term, because as it seems right now, there is just no way students can go back to school with the ongoing heavy rains. And I see here more on the top page that State 6 MPs nod to spend 10.6 billion on flood crisis. So the government wants the National Assembly to approve 10.6 billion to cater for the emergency response to floods and the humanitarian crisis caused by heavy rains countrywide. The details of the allocation are contained in the supplementary budget 2 for the 2023-2024 financial year that is before the National Assembly for post-facto approval. So by Saturday, unfortunately, this is really sad, 228 people had died due to flooding, with thousands injured and others displaced from their homes. The unrelenting rains have also caused massive destruction of crops and also property. This is on page 2 and also 3. Still on the top page, Kalonzo, Kenya Kwanza using AU carrot to gagas. I see here Azimio want Kenya Kwanza to stop using Raila Odinga's quest for the African Union Commission chairperson to blackmail them. And moving on, I see bench to hear 6 cases against the housing project. 6 cases challenging President William Ruto's affordable housing program will now be heard by a bench of at least 3 judges after a court declined to stop the government's bid to strike them. This is on page 6. And on the conflict here, internationally, Israeli missiles pound Gaza amid peace talks. Hamas leaders held a second day of truce talks with Egyptian and Qatari mediators, with no apparent progress reported as the Islamist group maintained its demand that any agreement must end and the war in Gaza. That is on page 18. So you can look at more on the same. And page 3 still gives us more information. I see here Ahero Sub-County Hospital, Police Station, Ahero Girls, and Market submerged. This is still on the flood that is happening in our country. I see here scores displaced as River Nyando burst its banks. This is really, really sad. I see Pain Interior Ministry says 228 people have now lost their lives. This is really unfortunate. 228 is quite a big number, and these have perished due to flood caused by heavy rains. And, we've had a lot of discussions and some saying, oh, is God punishing us and all that. But what I see happening, when you look at what happened when we had the El Nino, Narok County, for instance, they really put in the work of creating drainage system and making sure that, the drainage was really well made. And we don't have literally many deaths being reported from that county. But then when you look at other places, we find that the drainage system has not been well done. And people never realized that with the El Nino and what we saw happening, it was just a wake-up call so that we can have good drainage system. So I feel like this is just a neglect on the side of the government and the state when it comes to making sure that we are prepared for whatever it is that we are praying to God for, because we can be praying for rains and God, we need rains, but then our drainage system is terrible. So I believe that a lot of work needs to be done in that area. And this was just things just being exposed, the areas that have not really been taken care of. But we pray for intervention. We pray that this will be a wake-up call for many people so that even in future, we are not going to have this same disaster happening. And I see here with what was trending on the cyclone Hidaya. Remember, it was reported that it would happen, and also the president advised those living in Mombasa to get out of places that are near the dams. I see the cyclone landed in Tanzania on Saturday, dragging in its wake strong winds and tides that were felt in Kenya. And apparently one has died and 22 hurt as cyclone Hidaya hits. And this is really, really sad. I see KCGS boss Bruno Shioso saying, we have notified Tanzanian authorities about the incidents and we are in constant communication with the Tanzanian consulate. So we need to take a lot of proper care as well in that area. And moving on to the back page, final shot at Olympics relay qualification. Kenyan teams didn't automatically qualify for games in yesterday's first round of the championships. Look at that story on page, the back page of the Daily Nation. And moving on, I see Kilifi's Kachororoni Mkongani book tickets to EU Cups Nairobi finals, and that is on page 35. More on that. Winners are to face champs from Nairobi, Homa Bay and Marsabit come May 17th. And moving on to the Standard here, I see the very top story is Cabinet of Blunders. Cabinet secretaries in President William Ruto's administration are under fire from the opposition, parliament and citizens over the manner in which they have handled their dockets in the last 18 months, from giving excuses to making gaffes. Their performance appears wanting. And some that have been listed on this very openly indicated here. I see Susan Nakumicha in charge of health, Kipchumba Murkomen, roads and transport, Mithika Linturi on agriculture, Ezekiel Mashogu, education, and lastly Moses Kuria in charge of public service. And that is a story on the Standard. You can have a look at it. And I see here tunnel of death, top officials knew looming danger but did nothing. Known for its serene hot springs, caves, wildlife, and lush landscapes, Mai Mahiu attracts tourists year-round. However, beneath this picturesque facade lie a chilling tale of neglect and also tragedy. So a lot of neglect is being seen here. And I see Anne Maina on page 14 on the opinion. I see here, but continuing down the ruinous path of synthetic fertilizers is a dead end, depleting soils further while benefiting corporations at the expense of farmers. Still on the story that we have been looking at on the fertilizer that has been subsidized. And I see here on page 2 very well as the 6 years in route to administration on the spot for non-performance. Look at that story on page 2. And page 3 just gives us an intel into understanding what extension of school closure actually means. In 2020, schools closed for 8 months due to COVID-19 between March and also November. The adjustments in term dates could mean extra pressure to parents in raising fees. So this is what is happening. May we keep praying and asking God for provision in this particular time. And I see here page 4 still on the story of Mai Mahio. Have a look at it. And moving on, I see here on page 11, boost for farmers as mango plant expands. Look at that story that is on page 11. And on the health beat, Kwale puts up 36 million newborn unit to stem child mortality rate. And of course, there's this story that I found very, very interesting on the health and science part. I see here my story more about contraception and all that. You can look at that story on the dangers, on the procedures and what it looks like. That is on page 4, the health risk and all. You can look at that story on page 4. The back page of the day of the Standard, Arsenal left praying as Man City continue to fly. Leaders Arsenal hoping champions will slip up in the final round of matches. Haaland hits 4 as Man City keep title pressure on leaders Arsenal, who beat Bournemouth. And lastly, Kenya's relay team fails to book Olympic slot at Bahamas meet. 100-meter African champion Omanyala fails to anchor 4 times 100-meter team to Paris Olympics. The 2-day World Athletics Relay started on Saturday with 8 teams booking Olympic slots. So that's a story on page 34. That is on the Standard. So you can grab a copy of your favorite. But remember, you can tune in to Hope FM at the top of every hour. We have news updates right here on Hope TV, Dira at 7 p.m. and also 9 p.m. News Watch. We take a short break. We'll come back to talk about the video of the day.